welcome to
Yeah.
the show. We got Nyambi Nyambi joining me here for Sports and Hip Hop with DJ Mad Max, Live 365, iHeartRadio, Mad Max Radio. You know him from The Good Fight, Night Court, Mike and Molly, Samuel. He's really done a lot of work here. We're going to get all into it tonight, as well as upcoming things that he has on the way. He's also a big comic guy, big sports guy as well, Laker fan, so we'll get all into that. Welcome to the show. How's everything going, man?
Things are good. I know we were supposed to meet up earlier in the week, but I've been, when sorry about that. When your family's sick, you're sick. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
one
That's
is
how,
sick, everybody's sick. Yeah.
yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is
But
everything
I'm
well
good,
now?
man.
Everything's fine now?
Yeah, everything's good. We're all on the mend, and speaking of Lakers, my boy, Lamont said I got a ticket for tonight. So I'm gonna go see the game tonight, you know, see if we get that 3 seed,
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. Yeah, yeah.
So how do you feel about the whole antics? I mean, we'll get into the film stuff, of course, but
Yeah.
how do you feel about the antics with LeBron and just how the league, the media has been attacking him? Because it's been crazy.
It's interesting. I feel like when you think about back in the day, when you think about, there was no social media when Jordan was playing, and Jordan had everything that, from, what happened with his father, what was happening with, of course, with gambling. He had different, things that, that came up that I think if it was the social media era, that would just completely, and back then it was huge news. All of that stuff about Michael was huge, right? But I think it comes with the territory. Unfortunately, we live in a time where all of that just like, I mean, it gets magnified 3,000 times, look, LeBron has done an amazing job of sort of letting it go. And then I guess he was like, I'm 40, and he said, F it. I'm responding, you know, and we've never seen anybody in the league this long,
No.
on top of the game for this long, and the fact that he's being judged as though he's 25. I think that's the thing. I mean, he's 40 doing everything that he's doing. And he's being judged like he's 25. He's 22 years in the league. I'm thinking right now, right? And
Mhm.
he's just sort of like F it, let's, yeah, I've got no F's to give, so, you know,
I get it.
I don't blame him for responding the way he's responding. That being said, it does come with the territory, being an elite athlete, and the microscope is, it's on you. And it comes with the territory, but I think when you've been in the league that long and you've been taking shots for that long, at some point it's gotta hit, you know.
Exactly. He's still one of the
Yeah.
all-time greats, and
Yeah.
he's probably gonna have both numbers retired with the Lakers. I wouldn't be surprised because it's
Hmm.
LeBron, kind of like Kobe in a way.
Yeah.
He's gonna
Yeah.
get both numbers retired with you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. I want
Yeah.
to get into the film, so we could start right away from the beginning because I learned about your family's history and how they got connected. So it was your grandmother. Was she the one that paid to send your father to school here, and he chose Arkansas to get with
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
mother?
So, well, yeah. So, my my mom and my dad, they were dating, and they dated for like 6 months. And my mom moved, she got a scholarship to either study in the UK or in the United States. And she decided the United States, and it was going to be in Oklahoma. And my dad was a banker at the time. And, once that split happened in terms of her moving to the US, my my dad was like, "Oh well, I guess that's it," because they're in Nigeria, and my mom's now in the U.S. So long distance in that way, I mean, it would have been impossible. But then my grandma was like, "Do you love that girl?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, I got you." And you know, uh, found schools for him to go to, and the closest one he can get was Arkansas. And so then he moved to Arkansas. So there was a Nigerian starting off in Arkansas, which is the perfect place for a person that looks like us uh, start their life in the U.S. Um, and he has some crazy stories, that we all have growing up as a person of, people of color,
Mhm.
uh, where he didn't know any better, and um, uh, people driving by, and they yell out, "Hey, N-word," and he doesn't know any better. He's like, and they're like, "Hey," and he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" Yeah, he had no idea. He didn't know.
Yeah. Oh,
He's like, he didn't grow up with that. Um, and but yeah, that's how my parents got here, and then my mom was like, this long distance, even from Arkansas to Oklahoma was tough, and my dad was like, hey, I got into the University of Illinois, for architecture, and then my mom was like, all right, great, have a nice life, and then my dad 3 days later enrolled at the University of Oklahoma, and so then that's how boom. That's how. But speaking of Boomer Sooner, that's how they became Sooners, and then I became Sooner by birth, Sooner born,
big
Sooner bred in
Sooner
my
guy.
family. Yeah, so I'm a big Sooner fan.
How you feel about Baker Mayfield? I think he gets too much hate.
He does. I mean, it's because of the moxie. I think anybody when you have that kind of bravado, people want to see you fail, right?
Hmm.
But I love the fact that he's backing it up. I think he's always had teammates for the most part who've loved him and loved sort of that moxie. I think the problem in Cleveland was the injuries, and he's had a chance to reinvent himself in Tampa. I think the stop in LA helped him a lot. To be with well, actually, what's his name?
McVay.
Yeah, McVay being under McVay, and of course Stafford being out, that helped him. That helped him a lot, I think. And of course, going to Tampa, yeah, like he needed those stops to sort of people forget about Cleveland, and then he can then come to Tampa, um, and it's almost like when you're following a Brady, people are like you can't live up to that. So then all you can do is just be yourself, and I think people are respecting him for that, to just be, he's just being him, and he's crushing it.
He is.
Um, yeah, just wish they had a better running game. Uh,
Exactly. I want to see Kyler Murray get back to where he was too. I want to see him get
man,
back. Yeah.
yeah, Kyler's nice, man. Like Kyler's another dude. It's like super nice. Injuries again, and then also with how they it's so interesting when negotiations with contracts start to come up. People start talking about like what's wrong with the guy. Saying he doesn't like to study. With Baker, it's like he's full of himself. It's like what? All of a sudden we're talking about contract, and all of a sudden these things pop up. And so with Kyler, those things started popping up as far as his work ethic. And I'm like, man, somebody like that diminutive, and you know, where all the odds are stacked against him, and yet he's able to do what he's able to do. You know what I mean? Like he's incredible. But like, he's another guy that I want to see do well. Um, I hope he and Marvin Harris or Marvin Harrison Jr. can get their stuff together.
Oh, that would be
Yeah,
unstoppable.
unstoppable. Yeah.
It definitely would be. And speaking of just because you've always been into basketball, I learned about your
Mm.
career at Bucknell. So, have you ever thought about portraying any roles? Has there been any roles for basketball that have come up? Or
Man, I've always wanted, my dream has been to always do something that had to do with basketball, but for whatever reason, it just hasn't come up. I remember when I decided to be an actor, I did like this basketball audition for the movie Glory Road.
okay,
Um, and but this is a basketball audition. So like they just want to see people who can play about ball. And I just started off acting. So this would be me probably being in the background, whatever. And man, I was showing out. I mean, I was like crossover, dunking, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But I, but that sort of thing, it's all about how do you look? Do you look like you're from the 1960s? Do you look like whatever? So, but that's as far as basketball, that's like the closest I've gotten to doing anything I almost feel like I have to create the thing. And I think I will. Unfortunately, I'm at an age where most likely it'd be me coaching someone. I won't be playing. But yeah, but like basketball is such a big part of who I am, and the foundation of all that I know, in terms of my work ethic in this business as an actor comes from basketball.
And it started with this Cinco de Mayo play back in the day. This was something that you did really early on that
Yeah,
led you
fifth
to
grade.
fall in love with everything.
Yeah, fifth grade. Fifth grade. It was fifth grade, fifth or sixth grade. Yeah, it was my first. Yeah, I forget what the line was. I had one line, but like that was my first time on stage, and yeah, for Cinco de Mayo, and yeah, and then the next year, seventh grade, we moved to Virginia, and um, I was in drama class for seventh and eighth grade, so that was fun. But that's what started me off was just one line in the Cinco de Mayo class. Yeah.
And look at this journey that it's really taken you on. I mean, you were playing basketball at Bucknell, didn't get along
Yeah.
with the coach, but this is where you kind of found there was this flyer on campus that you found. And
Mm.
what was this, a speech class that you were a part of with forensic speech?
No, well, I did do high
Oh, it
school.
was
I
a
did
Martin Luther King thing that you did
well,
of
yeah,
a speech.
I did that in college. Also, there was a eulogy for the martyred children was the speech I used to do for this forensics club back in high school.
Okay.
Take it on in competitions and so I did that in high school. That was my way of being in front of an audience or being in front of people and sort of expressing myself artistically. I couldn't do theater in high school or high school or college because of basketball. Theater plays happened at the same time as basketball games. So it was impossible for me to when I got to college to minor or major in theater. So I was always trying to figure out how can I like find a way to sort of what was my outlet outside of basketball. And so this speech club, Friends Club, was the way I did it. And that was in high school. And then in college, I did this speech. And this was senior year when I was injured. I had these huge, yeah, not to get graphic, but I got these huge blisters on the bottom of my feet from orthotics. So I
Mm,
couldn't walk. I mean, they were like this big around. I could not under on both feet because I got these new orthotics and they tell you to break them in. And I was
mhm.
like, no, play right away. I was just kept playing in them, and then boom, burns. And so I couldn't play for I couldn't walk for what felt like a month. And once that happened, coach was just like, you know what, you in the doghouse, forget you. So then I'm like, all right, what am I going to do with my life? And back then I was known as a quiet kid, and I went up to the woman. I saw this thing where they were doing this Martin Luther King gala, and I said, hey, you know what, I can do that. I can have this speech I used to do. And so I went up to the lady. I said, hey, I have this speech, this eulogy for the martyred children that I could do for your gala. And she's like, you? What? Because I mean, I've been to all these functions, been all these things, but never said a word. And she's like, you gonna talk? I was like, yeah, I could do this. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, you don't think I can do this? And the thing is, I had just taken like acting one and acting two and all this. So then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna memorize this speech. Things I didn't have to do. But I was like, I'm gonna memorize this speech, not knowing that that's what like what I was about to do was what actors do. So I'm gonna memorize this speech. You know what? I'm gonna study his cadence. I'm gonna study his gait. I'm gonna study the speech behind the speech. All these things that actors do that I didn't call acting, but this was me being like, you know what? I'm gonna show this lady. I'm gonna do all this stuff, all this research. So then the time comes and I get in front of the audience and I start it, and then all of a sudden something hit me, you know, and it just felt like an out of body in my body experience. And the speech was done, got a standing ovation. And one of my teachers, Professor Glenn Griffiths, who gave me a C in this class because I was always late, says, Nyambi, you're an actor. And I was like, oh, yeah. And it was like the first time somebody put a name to the thing that I'd always loved doing. And I never looked back, you know. Yeah, I never looked back. And I'm always trying to it's that feeling that always keeps me in it because I'm always chasing that feeling. Um, whether it's just a kernel of it or if I can get it for a minute, you know, but that joy is what I'm always after in any project that I do.
And you could tell just by the work that you put in. Samuel is one of the most memorable characters. People love that show still. It's got a huge following. Still see the
Yeah.
replays to this day. But
Yeah, thank you. I mean, thank you. The residuals. I'm like, oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, I ain't mad at y'all. Just keep
uh
watching.
especially the episode I love when you're working in the living room and then you climb up the ladder all the way to the ceiling when the
Oh
woman
yeah,
comes in.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just raced up the ladder.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Classic that scene. And then when you when you borrow Mike's car and then you got the
Oh
date there.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. With
Mhm.
Giara Kilpatrick. She
Yeah.
was my girlfriend in that one. Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
Another classic episode. What's your favorite moment on Mike and Molly?
Oh man, my favorite moment. That's a great question. Is this something I need to actually like sit down and think about? Because my favorite moments are the times that we spend like off uh, you know, offset, getting to know the guys. But I always say my favorite moments, of course, were in that diner with the other two guys, with Billy, with Reno, and us just kicking it, uh, because those are my boys to this day, Um, so even like in the car ride when we're driving, to see Carl's mother, but then he doesn't, we don't get there in time. But like all the stories that I'm telling in the car ride, it's just, I mean, it was just fun, just getting to like sort of needle them and try to get to them, and they try to get under my skin and all. It's just we just had a blast. It was just so much fun.
Filming out there in Chicago too.
Yeah.
The cold weather, that bit out there.
Say that again?
Oh, that cold weather out in Chicago. I bet you that bit out there.
Well, yeah, but we shot everything. It was crazy. We shot everything in LA. We shot everything, you know, uh,
Wow.
yeah, we shot all that at Warner Brothers.
That's crazy. Yeah, so you were in the studio next to Big Bang Theory, and that's how you
Yeah,
got close
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah,
Melissa.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's how I got to know Melissa Rausch, Kunal, Simon Helberg. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's how I got to
Yeah.
know all those guys. And Melissa, yeah, we'd always like meet in the middle of in the parking lot and catch up and then go to our respective shows. It's always funny to me because they started off first, and then we showed up as the new kids, and then they were like, "Hey, how y'all doing? All right." And then our show was canceled. They're like, "All right, man, see y'all later," because they were on for like 12 years. You know.
But the main thing is that you kept working, still getting these big roles, and we're gonna get into them. But there was this interesting part too because you're in college, then you get to go to NYU. So when going to grad there, was there
Yeah.
did you have to get some referrals? How did you get into the program there at NYU?
No, NYU. So when I finished, when I graduated from Bucknell, I moved immediately to New York, and studied at the Stella Adler Studio of Acting for 2 years. One of my most important teachers, Earl Gister, late great Earl Gister, said, Nyambi, you're really great at this, but you need to go to grad school and study with in a program where everyone eats, sleeps, drinks this. And so I auditioned for NYU twice before, like twice. The first time because Earl told me to. The second time because um, you know everybody else was doing it. And then the third time, I finally was like, oh, I know what I want. I know what I want to get out of this. And then it was that third time that I knew I knew exactly what I wanted. Okay, so the third time I had done the Public Theater Shakespeare Lab. So I studied with Ron Van Loo, who was the head acting teacher at NYU, but then he moved on to Yale. And then so I auditioned both at Yale and NYU that same year, got into both. Um, and but decided to go stay with NYU because that was always the dream. And but I told my parents that I was going to NYU, and then it was a long pause. I said, "Well, you know, NYU is amazing." So, well, in Nigeria, we know Yale. I was like, okay. So anyway, but yeah, but at NYU, you know, I was blessed that I got to work with to learn under Ron Van Loo for an entire summer, and then be able to couple that with the program at NYU grad acting. You know, so I felt like I got the NYU grad experience that the people before me did. You know, the Sterling K. Browns, the um, Andre Hollins, you know, those guys. Um, yeah, Saul Williams, you know, all the, you know, all the cast that came before me at NYU. I felt like, you know, if I didn't have Ron, you know, then I feel like I would have had a different experience. But you know, um, I can't say that. Yeah, I can't be like, oh man, they had this amazing great teacher, and I, you know, I had great teachers too, but I didn't have that. But I had that plus what NYU had.
And you learned a lot when you were there, and that's just what led you on the path. So once you get
Yeah.
past the NYU, how long of a road or even kind of a struggle was it to land like such as your role in Mike and Molly? Because that's kind of what would really pick things up for you.
Yeah. You know, it took a while. So you know, graduate. Well, actually, I guess it didn't take a while if you think about it. But it took a while to me because I graduated from Bucknell in 2001. Mike and Molly wasn't until 2010. So I did the 2 year program at Stella Adler. Was done in 2003. Did the public that summer. Then started NYU grad in 2005. Graduated 2008, and then it was 2 years after that that Mike and Molly happened. But you know, I was doing theater. I was doing, you know, I did The Tempest with Mandy Patinkin, which was an amazing experience. You know, understudied on Broadway, which was incredible, and had to go on. And that really was the moment that changed my life, really, because we were going to close 3 days before we closed. You know, Chad, you know, Chad Coleman was playing Loomis. He halfway through the show, his voice popped, and then he comes off. He's like, "You gotta go on. I can't do this. You gotta go on. You gotta go on." And I remember I had a smile, and then fear. I was just like, oh shoot, I gotta go on, I gotta go on, I gotta go on. What do I do? And then you know, Arliss Howard comes up to me and he's like, hey, you calm down. You let everybody else, you let everybody else worry. You calm down, you calm down. You know, everybody's coming up to me. Ernie Hudson is like, all right now. Andre Holland is like, oh, come on now, let's get it. And then, you know, Danai Gurira is like, hey, we want to go upstairs, we want to pray. You know, I mean, just like so many so many people. You know, Latanya Richardson Jackson was just like, all right, now let's go get it, let's go get it. You know, everyone was just so happy for me, and was doing everything they could to make me feel um you know, I guess not scared because I was like fear had like overcome me. And then but like all the prayer, all the joy, all the love that was like bestowed upon me. And when I got on that stage, it just again that thing that I was I'm always after is that out of body in my body experience. And it happened. You know, and you know, Latanya says after the play, she's like, "You're never gonna be the same. You're never gonna be the same." And literally, I was never the same. Like that, because I felt like I could do anything. You know, when you get thrown into the wolves like that, I just felt like there's nothing that could you know, get in my way. So
Mm.
yeah, I
I
mean,
feel
that's
like
such a
basketball could have helped you out there too if you had to make the shot before the buzzer expired. That's another under pressure moment.
yeah. Basketball would have helped me if, especially, you know, but I didn't play a lot of Bucknell, so so I didn't.
Do you still have your jersey from then?
No, man.
No.
You know what I'm saying? You know, the jerseys are for closers. That's what they say. No, no. They I have my practice jersey, yeah.
Okay.
because that was the only time I played was practice. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, they didn't, they my actual game jersey. They did give me I did get my game jersey or a game jersey. But it wasn't like my original one because I asked them, I said, "Hey, can I get a, game jersey?" But like when I asked, it was like 10 years later. And by
oh,
then
okay.
they had already switched those out and but I got my number, and have it framed here in the house. But but yeah, no, like I think about when I was at the five-star basketball camp, we had the situation camp and situation camp where they say, all right, you're down four, there's a minute left. What do you do? Go. All right, you're up three, 30 seconds left. Go. And I thrived in those moments. Like it was just such an amazing, like that's actually what got me recruited by Bucknell was the situation camp at five-star basketball camp. And so yeah, those situations I think helped me when it came to when I was me being an understudy and being thrown into, the wolves like that. Um, to where I felt like instinctively I could thrive. Now, if I had like had to think about it, yeah, I would have crumbled. But like the fact that you don't have time to really think, you just have to just go, you know? And man, I'm telling you, everyone, it was the best experience because I'm trying to do my best to give them the play that they're used to, and they're doing their best to give me what I need to sort of get us through the play. And so it just felt like the most collaborative event one could be a part of as an actor. And it just felt like it's the best. It was my best time on stage in terms of a collaborative, effort.
Is it true you also worked with Al Pacino on the
Yeah,
stage?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah. No, we did The Merchant of Venice. This is at the Public Theater. He played Shylock. I played the Prince of Morocco. So technically, we didn't have scenes together. He, I was sort of the comic relief, from his stuff, and there was a moment where he came off stage, uh, or I came off stage after doing my stuff, and he pulled me aside and he's like, "Really great, wonderful, yeah." And then walked off. And then the dresser saw what just happened, and we were just like, "Oh!" We just couldn't believe that. Just pulled me aside to say that. And but he was such he was such a he was so great to like watch, observe because he doesn't think he's gonna ever work again. Whatever he's in, he feels like it's the last thing he's ever gonna do. you know? And I'm like, what? You're Al Pacino. Like, there's no way. This is gonna be the last thing I do. You know? But like it was so refreshing to see someone like him be that sort of humble and I mean humble as one can get who has he had two assistants and they're all trying to figure out which meatball will he like but he's still he's like I don't want you want my meatball you want the meatball he was offering meatballs to I was like no I don't want your meatball Al Pacino but as much he was as humble as one could be, being an Al Pacino. It was so refreshing. And that's the thing, I've been blessed to work with some amazing, people. Like when I think about my career, when I think about Mandy Patinkin was the first one out of school that I got to work with, and seeing all the conversations we had and how we talked about insecurities and things like that and being like, oh wait, you get insecure, you get in, and someone as brilliant as you gets insecure, I get scared, I get insecure, that's crazy. And so it's sort of to to work with these guys, it just sort of humanized and made everything feel like, oh, this is manageable. well, I get scared. We all get scared, and it's just really about, acknowledging it and, you know, learning how to deal with it. Um, yeah, working with the great Delroy Lindo on The Good Fight and then the late great Andre Brower, you know.
Lou Gossett, Lou Gossett
Yeah, Lou
Jr.
Gossett, yeah. Like I've worked with got a chance to work with amazing folks and really, uh get to pick up something new from each of them. Yeah, about process and how they go about working. And again, being able to say, "Oh, I can get out of my head because, that person who I revere goes through this exact same thing, you know? Yeah, it's
Mhm.
yeah, I've been lucky. Um,
Absolutely. A
but
thousand mentors.
yeah, 1,000 mentors. That's right. That's right. I've never been afraid to ask questions. Questions of the old, the young, the lead, the five, the under five, or the background. I've always been fascinated with people's stories and how people's walk and never judged um never judgmental about someone's walk because I think because it's all valid. It's all important. Um, every single role in every single aspect of what makes the production go is important, and I'm fascinated with how with all the moving parts and I'm neither I'm neither less than, and I'm certainly not more than any of those parts. And so it's a joy. It's always a joy being on set and celebrating what we get to do with with the prop people, with the costume, with construction, with so I love being on set and and creating.
With the good fight, did you get into more details about what your father went through, especially with coming to this country and going to Arkansas? Because I feel as though with that character, it was so deep, and especially with you went through personally as well,
Yeah.
especially because that bathroom scene was one of the most memorable parts of that show when you call him out for the racism and inciting violence out there and putting that black people are violent and all this crazy stuff. So was there kind of things that you asked your family about that they went through that you could apply to really see
Yeah,
how this role could come about?
there's certainly there's certainly the stories that come from my family, the stories that I've experienced in throughout my life, growing up in Oklahoma and Texas, and then of course Virginia, and then of course um, the questions that I ask of the people around me, my peers, the people that again that I revere, to have the people that we have on they had on set, to have Delroy right there and be able to talk to him and just sort of ask him questions, and then the Kings, they it was something they did, but before the year before, the right before I became a series regular, when we knew I was a series regular for season two, we sat down and I sat with the writers and they got to know me, I got to know them, and then a lot of what you see is from our conversations, um, from you know in that meeting that we had as far as like who am I? So all the artistry stuff, the artists, the drawings, all that stuff, that just came from them learning that I could draw. Um, it's so funny. I told them that they were like, "Hey, what's one thing you wouldn't want to do or something like that?" I said, I guess play a character with an accent because I just did that with Mike and Molly. So it's nice to know that he's an American. So I think that's what I did, right? And then they write that he's not from this country, that something, something happened, and I was like, good one, very good, very good, very good. But it made for a powerful episode with the whole immigration stuff um, yeah, no, the Kings are geniuses, and that show that show meant a lot to me, meant a lot. I mean, you're talking about all the men that I worked with. I mean, you're talking about, the women, Christine Baranski,
Hmm.
Donald, Rose Leslie, Sarah Steele. Sarah Steele was my right hand person that the whole time. Cush Jumbo, some great folks. I mean, even now, Carrie Preston, who's doing Elspeth. Um, just so many great people. Um, you know, so
Important
many.
show.
I find myself just being like, I guess I find myself just being in awe of all the people I get to work with, and I probably should. I should probably. Well, no, that's it. I just am in awe with all the people I get to work with. Um, I just hope that I'm taking and applying what I learned from working with all these folks because I mean, it's some bona fide geniuses that I've gotten to work with over the years.
Absolutely. And you're able to see people for who they are. So who would you say Nyambi Nyambi is, especially after, because you've said it in the past with NYU, that's when you discovered who you truly were
Yeah.
yourself. So who would you say Nyambi Nyambi is now that you've seen all these greats behind the scenes and in front of the camera?
Nyambi, 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 because I'm speaking in third person. Yeah, Nyambi, Nyambi. No, who I am, when I left NYU was, is vastly different than who I am today. Um, and that's just the way it's really recognizing how, where you are in the moment, right? And being present and being uh, hyper aware of um, your community and who you are within that community. And I find myself still, working on trying to uh, navigate. Well, who am I today? Because there are times where I'm like, oh man, I'm trying to get back to this old version of myself, but that old version is unattainable because I'm in a different place and have learned so many new things that this old version may not have known, or this old version did not know or never understood. And so for me to say I want to get back to this place is actually doing myself a disservice. It's recognizing whatever this was great, but like trying to figure out who am I today and how can I maximize maximize whatever it is that I'm dreaming in terms of imaginatively trying to create, and how do I put that out into the world? How does this person operate? Um, because I think that's what leads to a lot of frustration for myself, is that I find myself trying to go back to an old version of myself that just isn't, because that old version isn't, that old version isn't married, doesn't have a kid, isn't, they're in a vastly different place than this person who is a family man, who has different responsibilities, who has different people depending on him, and at the same time, um, is just more aware of things that old version isn't. So that's the thing. I am still working on, navigating who am I today, and that person is someone wants to who wants to bring joy to the world. I know that. I know I want to bring joy, but I also want to bring truth within that joy. How do I do that? That is what I'm working on, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
And you're doing it. You're continuing it through your work. You got Night
Yeah.
Court, Wyatt. I know this
Yeah.
had to really hit home for you because you used to watch the original Night Court growing up. You're a
Yeah.
big sitcom guy, so this was in your rotation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This was my rotation. So I loved I was a big Marshall Warfield fan. And so, anytime Night Court was on, I loved the bailiffs. And so it was kind of crazy that, like Night Court is calling me to do to join, to do their show. I'm like, the only thing that would be like better is if somehow Martin called and said I wanted to, you know what I mean? Because that was Martin was my show growing up. But yeah, but like to have Night Court, this show that I grew up loving and watching, say, hey, we want you to come and do this show. I was like, this is what year am I in? And but but having Melissa, and then realizing, oh shoot, just that those interactions that we'd have in the parking lot, that's all she knows me from, and that's all we know each other from is that. I mean, sure, the work also speaks for itself in a way, but really, it's about the rapport we had just as friends, and so. Um, her to reach out, for them to reach out and say, "Hey, we have a role we think you'd be great for," uh, was um, was awesome. Was just yeah. So I just and the timing was amazing. Because the timing happened right when I found out that I was going to be a father. And so like yeah, so that was incredible, and then. With that kind of timing, the strike happened. So because I got it right before the strike. And so then, we were striking, doing what we were doing to fight for what we were looking for. And the blessing for me was that I had a job, that was waiting for me. And then, of course, when the job happened, my baby girl was born, and so it's just like the timing of it was incredible. So this job has been a godsend.
Absolutely. And is there an update? Are we getting another renewal here? Is there anything that you can kind of
Man,
reveal?
you know better than I do, man. You know better than I do. Yeah.
uh, yeah, I'm
I
telling you,
wish.
man.
I hope.
Yeah,
But I'm always of the mindset, I'm like, yeah, it's all God's plan, and I feel like whether hopefully it's this because I love to see the people I'm working with because they're like family to me. I love to see my family working, and but I'm also of the mindset that uh, you know um I'm always gonna be working on something. I don't know what it is, but it's always gonna be something, and I just have to trust that. Um, That's always been my MO. It's just trust that, something's coming. I don't know what it is. Hopefully it's season 4 of Night Court. Hopefully it's season 4 of Night Court and something else. Um, but um, but yeah, man. Um, Tell all your folks to send your letters to Peacock, to NBC. Please renew Night Court. We need a renewal. Um, Brother got mouths to feed.
absolutely. Everyone send those letters in. How about an update on your own comic book series? You want to get into X-Men on the movie side of things, but
Oh my gosh. I
have you
would
thought about some
love
comic book work?
Yeah, I would love to. I need to get back into writing comics because I had a blast doing that thanks to Kelly Sue DeConnick. Because I got to write a short with my sisters for Bitch Planet. And that was a blast. And Having Chris Visions do our art, our pages. But yeah, no, X-Men, it would be dope to do, play some like live action Bishop, you know. Um, yeah, I don't know, you know, some. I mean, I could be a mutant. Why not? And I had a blast playing Freedom Beast in Titans, you know. So, that was fun to like, and I had time. They gave me a little bit of time, so I had time to work out. I got huge. I was like massive. I wouldn't be able to fit in this booth the way I got big. You know what I'm saying? I had deflate. When I heard you were doing this, I said, I'm going to be doing it in the booth. Let me deflate so I can fit in this booth. So I've deflated. I said, no, I'm not working out for him. I'm not working out for him so I can fit in this booth and I can be here for you. And then but yeah, so like just Martian Manhunter for Death of Superman and Reign of Supermen was a blast. Got to play John Stewart in a video game, Lego. Um, but yeah, no, I would love, yeah, if I can be in that Marvel universe, that'd be incredible.
Mm. Are there any other roles that you want to play? Is there any other? Because we mentioned the basketball role already. We talked about the superhero. Is there
Yeah,
anything else
yeah,
that's in the
yeah,
back of
yeah.
your mind?
Well, yeah, and I love Shakespeare, so I'm like revisiting some of the Shakespeare that I love, Leontes in the Winter's Tale, would be one that I'd love to play. Aaron in Titus Andronicus, I'd love to play. If I was doing any of the August Wilsons that Denzel has now been, putting together, I would love to play Loomis in Joe Turner's Come and Gone. When I'm older, I'd love to play Caesar in Gem of the Ocean. So yeah. There's a lot. I'm like starting to like put a list of roles again where I'm like I'd be excited to play that role and just put it out in the universe and hopefully the universe responds.
Mhm. Absolutely. Are you a music guy? Because I know I cover hip hop on my show. Are you a big music guy at all?
I am, but not big as you.
Oh,
No, no. I mean, you're gonna say some things. I'm gonna be like, ah.
well, who are some of your favorite artists? We could begin with that.
Okay, so not because of all the stuff that happened recently, but I do love Kendrick.
Okay.
And this is before all this stuff happened.
Hmm.
Um, you know,
Good Kid,
uh,
Mad City. That's right around the
yeah, yeah,
time
yeah,
then.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Before all that, yeah, I love Mad City. No, the Mad City, even before. So Damn is the one
The
that
Damn
like
album.
got the Damn album is the one that got me like hooked on Kendrick. But I grew up. I'm a blues guy. I love the blues. So like Howlin' Wolf, BB King.
Miles
uh,
Davis.
Yeah, Miles Davis with jazz, John Coltrane with jazz. I'm sort of an old school you know an old school guy. I'm like random. Like I listen to like most everything. Paul Simon. I'm listening to Lady Smith, Black Mambazo. I'm listening to and like I'm all over the map, man.
Man.
Nina Simone. I mean all over the
Okay.
map. Yeah, yeah. I'm all over the map all over. Like when I say I listen to everything, I listen to everything.
Man.
Yeah.
Versatile. Stay diverse with the listening.
Yeah, I try to say that.
Mhm.
I try to say diverse. So I mean like with hip hop, like I'm more of the old school. Um
90s. I'm more of a 90s hip hop
yeah,
fan.
90s. I'm more 90s because Biggie was the one that, I mean, I listened to both Biggie and I listened to and Pac,
Mhm.
but Biggie was more my guy when I was growing up. And then for whatever reason Pac, because I mean I even got his book of poetry and all that, when I was a little older. Because Pac, he had stuff where uh there was conscious stuff that he was talking about that then made me more like him. So uh I mean I was listening to Immortal Technique back then,
Oh yeah, that's old school. Yeah,
yeah,
people. It's
yeah. So I
underground.
mean, yeah, I was listening to all kinds of like 90s. Yeah, that's I'm 90s through and through when it comes to the hip hop and R&B.
Mm.
Um you know, R&B Boys to Men, Jodeci, freaking, yeah. Brian McKnight for a second, then we were on we played in an entertainment basketball league together. And then I was like, it's weird. I can't now that I play ball with him, basketball, we're on the same team. I can't listen to his music. You know what I mean? I can't get down with my lady, and Brian McKnight's in the background. Because all I can remember is him. Hey man, I heard you can ball. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pass the ball amongst ourselves, get up by 20, 30 points, then we'll pass it to everybody else. I was like, you know what, man? I can't, I can't listen to Brian McKnight anymore. He'll be my boy on the basketball court, but not in the bedroom. I can't. It just, I just can't. You
Can't
know,
put One Last Cry
I
or Any
can't.
Time on
I can't
anymore.
put one last cry. One last cry. I'm just like, baby, I'm sorry. I can't. I can't.
Well, you have the connection there with being a Laker fan because he did a song with Kobe. Kobe, Hold Me. He had that song back in the day.
Oh, well, I didn't know he did one with Kobe.
Yeah.
When did he do that? Because there was a moment in time where I stopped listening to like current stuff.
Hmm.
I was in grad school.
I think it was either 96, 97.
Oh, yeah, that's way back then. Okay, so
Yeah,
then
that's when he did the song with Kobe. It was the 90s.
then I missed that one. I missed that. I
Yeah.
missed. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, no, I missed that. Now I gotta go. Now I gotta go listen to it.
Yeah, you gotta check it out. Kobe, I know we know Shaq can rap, but Kobe
Yeah.
on that track, he did his
Is he
thing.
rapping?
Yeah, he's rapping. It's kind of you could tell that
I,
he's new to it. He just tried it out, but it was pretty. I'll
okay.
tell you what, it's better than a lot of the hip hop that comes out today.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Way better. I did want to ask you about this too, because you're a big basketball guy. I'm a
Yeah.
Knicks fan. I grew up a diehard Knicks fan. I just saw Carmelo Anthony got into the Hall of Fame. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on the curriculum to really get in? Because I love Melo because he wanted to be here. He gave us I think two or
Yeah.
three great years. But then there was a year he didn't play. Then he didn't
Mm,
leave on good terms because we had
yeah.
some awful players around him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what's the curriculum? Because I also look at like Vince Carter. He didn't leave on good terms out of Toronto as well. So, what are your thoughts on
Didn't.
curriculum for Hall of Fame?
Well, I mean, remember, Hall of Fame is a career, so it's not
Hmm.
just the one stop in Toronto when it comes
That's right.
to Vince Carter. You got to think about his time with the Nets. It's a totality of his career, and then impact. You got to think about impact. So with Carmelo, the impact that he had in Denver, and then of course the impact that he had in New York, because really he's Hall of Fame because of his time in Denver and then with the Knicks,
Hmm.
right? And the Knicks, think about who the Knicks were before Carmelo, right? I mean, we're talking about from 2000 to whenever he came about. The Knicks were really, like they struggled.
Hmm.
And even that those 99 Knicks, and if you think about it, they how they got to the finals was a miracle because I forget what they weren't a high seed. I want to say they were like a 7 or 8
They were
seed.
eighth seed and they
Yeah,
got
that's
in.
what
It
I
was a
thought.
lockout year.
Yeah, yeah, it was the lockout year. So
Mhm.
like so it's not like they were like a top team even with that squad. The last top team they had were the Ewing years, back in 94.
Hmm.
So yeah, so like they've gone through, some really bad teams. So then Carmelo, like was the first real superstar that they had and like in a long, long time. And he made them relevant. When you make New York relevant, like New York is amazing. It's an amazing city to live in where the Knicks are good. When the Knicks are good, New York is one of the best city, is the best city to live in when the Knicks are good, you know? And I lived there a lot of years when the Knicks were not good. And it's
Oh.
just like, come on, man, come on, Knicks, come on, man. You know? And because everybody wants to show out in the garden. And it's like, so the Knicks, in a weird way, they get everybody's best game. Like it's strange.
Kobe. Oh,
Yeah, they get everybody's best game, because New York is like the mecca of basketball. So like, um, so yeah, so like for Melo, it's about the totality of his career. Also, you have to consider his college career, with
Syracuse.
Syracuse, because with the Qs and winning that national championship, and then he's the greatest. I mean, up until what Durant did, he's the greatest Olympian.
Hmm.
Carmelo. So the totality of his career, when you do Syracuse with the national championship, you have his time with Denver and with the Knicks as an All-Star, all those All-Star years. You have his Olympics career alone makes him a Hall of Famer. So there's
I
that.
agree with that.
Yeah, Vince Carter. You know, his time in North Carolina, great. I mean, Anton Jameson was like the man at the time, right? But like, and Vince Carter was like, oh, he's this high flyer. So like, but like, no one really saw the kind of NBA career that he ended up having. I think partly because I think Vince, when he was in North Carolina, um, is interesting. He was still trying to figure out who he was, but he just happened to have this athleticism that was unmatched. And then when he got to the NBA, he was starting to, I guess, realize that, with Toronto. And then when he and um, Kidd, because he played with Kidd, right?
He
I
did
want to say
deal
that's right.
with the
Yeah,
Nets.
yeah. Um, like those guys together, he brought out the best in Vince, And so um and then when you jump over a guy, you win a gold medal and you jump over a guy like that, the way he did. And then his impact, the impact on with the slam dunk contest, um he's an Olympic gold medalist. Um I mean, however many time All-Star, 20-year career. I think if he had just stopped at like 12 years, he has a Hall of Fame career. But I think when people see the last like 8 years, whatever, when he, bounced around, and was a utility guy, for those
In
last,
Atlanta, yeah,
eight
he
years
finished with Atlanta.
with Atlanta, I think he's with the Mavericks at some
Hmm.
point, but like you forget how great he was. And I think those years, the same thing that happens with Carmelo. I think when he goes to all these different places with the Blazers, with Oklahoma City,
The
with the Lakers,
Lakers too.
like, you forget how great he was. And the thing is, you know, it's the thing that Iverson wasn't able to do, which was adjust his game in a way that allows him to play many more years, you know? Um, those guys had to change. And then Iverson, I think he struggled with that, you know. But he's a Hall of Famer because of the impact that he was Georgetown, the impact that he was with the 76ers. But taking that 2001 team to the finals and then winning a game against that Lakers team, you know what I mean? Like, and then the impact that he had, on all of us coming up, that's a Hall of Famer. So like, and he very easily could have played 20 years, you know. But there's a mindset that you have to adjust and change, to especially when they're like you're no longer the face of a franchise. And I think that's the thing, um, when he got moved to Denver for Chauncey, that was tough. Um, and then he got moved to Detroit,
Mhm.
and that made it, yeah, yeah,
Tough.
yeah. So like I said, like it's really about it's about the impact. How impactful were you
Mm,
for how long? And those guys were impactful for long enough to say those are Hall of Famers.
yeah. I'll tell you what, the Lakers are going to be impactful for a while now because when LeBron retires, you got Doncic right there with him. It's unbelievable. You guys always get that next big star.
I don't know how, like, man, I feel bad for Nico. Nico Harrison, is that his name? I feel
Hmm.
bad. Like, I don't know. I mean, this is like how do I don't know. Man, to trade him and say, hey, no, we're looking for like defense and all that, and then all of these things happen with Anthony Davis going down immediately, and then of course with Kyrie Irving going down, and then you don't have all the your big guys, Max Christie and all those guys aren't playing, and then you're 10th in the West, um, and you give the Lakers Doncic, and really the way the trade was supposed to happen was that the Lakers are playing for the future, and Dallas is playing for now, and when you look at them. Lakers are playing for the championship now, and the Mavericks are playing for the future. It's like you know it's I don't want to call it a dumb trade, um, because Anthony Davis is amazing, in terms of two-way play. But golly, Doncic is what 9 years younger. I don't know. I forget how much younger he is, and I mean what the Lakers will be able to build around him. You know, it wasn't dumb, but it was dumb-ish.
Mm.
So I mean, I don't know. It
Yeah.
was.
Well, we're gonna see.
I'm just thankful. I'm thankful. As a Laker fan, I'm thankful.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's gonna be more championships on the way. And I will say this to all the LeBron haters out there is that you better enjoy him because I don't know if we're gonna get a generational talent like him anytime soon when he retires. I just I don't see as far as that are more homegrown within the US. I don't think so because I
Yeah,
really don't see one on that level of him or Kobe. I just don't.
I no, I don't. Listen, I do love Cooper Flag is nice. I love his motor. But yeah, to see someone like a LeBron, I don't know if we'll see that. We won't see that for a while. A Kobe, we won't see that for a while because Kobe it's Kobe's drive, man.
Mhm.
Like it's like he had imagine having LeBron's game, but then Kobe's drive. You know what I mean? That's that's the thing, is having someone who has the physical tools, but then has Kobe's drive is like would be what would bring somebody up to because LeBron had the physical tools, and I think over time, like playing alongside of Dwayne Wade and playing in Miami, I think that helped him, in terms of because he had never, like he said, he never because he didn't play in college, he never really had an opportunity to. You look at all his coaches, he's never really had like a quintessential great coach, right?
Mhm.
When you look at all the list of his coaches, but when you look at like Kobe, I mean, Kobe had Phil, and Kobe could tell him about Michael, whereas LeBron never really had, those guys. Tyronn Lue was a great coach, but Tyronn Lue was also, figuring things out at the same time as LeBron. So so yeah, I mean, it's just like the perfect just the perfect storm of somebody with the physical tools of a LeBron, and then having the right coach, the right situation, and then that drive of a Kobe. They don't have to have the physical tools of LeBron, but somewhere like close. Then if they can have that drive that Kobe had, which is I mean a lot to ask because that Mamba mentality is I mean that's but something of that's unique in and of themselves. Because I mean, look at Steph. I mean, look at Steph. Steph is a generational guy. You know, Steph is one of again when you saw him at Davidson, you were like, I mean, I loved him at Davidson, and I was every time he put the ball up, he shot the ball. You thought I was like, oh, that's going in. So you were shocked when he missed. But I never imagined him becoming the Steph that we know him to be today. Like no one saw that.
No.
No one. you know. But I think that speaks to work ethic, drive, and something clicked or switched off in his brain that was like, "Yo, I'm unstoppable," And so, um, You know what? Um, we will never see another LeBron. We'll never see another Steph. We'll never see another Jordan. We'll never see another Kobe. But the next guy is coming. I mean, as far as homegrown U.S., the next guy he's coming. Because when you look at Jokic, I mean, we've never seen a Jokic. We've never seen someone like that, right?
Mhm.
Someone who's getting 20-point triple doubles, 20 point, 20 rebound, 20 assist games, you know? Um, the league evolves, and the people that come up in this league or come up as through the high school ranks, the AAU ranks, whatever, they watch these guys, and someone masters their craft, and they get to the league, and they show people a new way of doing things that makes them be like, yo, we'll never see another like that. And so I'm not worried about that. I think the next guy's coming. And look, what's my man at in Minnesota? Edwards.
Anthony
Anthony
Edwards.
Edwards. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
he
another
could be one
cat.
of those ones.
He could be one of those ones.
Yeah.
So
I think I know he's not homegrown, but I like Wembenyama, even though he got the blood clot in his
yeah, I
shoulder
know
this
the
year.
plot, man. I really do hope that he's able to come back from that. Um yeah, because Chris Bosh had that and he had to end his career, but like his was in a different spot.
Yeah.
Um Hopefully Wembanyama, his, because we want to see, you want to see greatness sort of be realized. When you see it in someone, you like, man, I hope they can maximize that to their fullest. That's why I want to see LeBron maximize, you know, his potential as being, like every, all the physical tools that he has. You want to see him, succeed. So going back to your original question about how the media is on him, um, I'm all for the cats that want to see him succeed, and that's why they are hard on him, versus the ones that don't want to see him succeed because for whatever reason, um, it usurps who they think their number one is, which in many cases people say is Michael Jordan.
Mhm.
Mine is Magic Johnson, but
Yeah, I know you're a big Magic guy. Well,
huge Magic
I know
fan.
why they're doing it too, and I know there's been tweets online about it, and
Yeah,
I fully think it's because they're trying to bring him down because he's a powerful figure in the black community. So you see a lot of these guys, people on Fox News, and everyone. There's people that are being used as puppets within
yeah,
ESPN and these other networks to bring him down because he's a power. He does a lot for the communities. He does a lot
yeah.
for the kids, for schools, and he's so much bigger than basketball. So that's why they're really trying to discredit him.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is here, he it's weird. Like, I mean, for him, damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. But he's done a great job of navigating all the different, minefields or whatever, and you know, uh, has really the only thing that's ever been a hiccup with him was the quote unquote the decision,
Hmm.
where he was trying to decide when he decided to go to Miami and how he went about doing that. People forget that he did that for charity with the boys club or whatever. Um, um, but I think people would have been all for it if he had said, "I'm staying here in Cleveland," right? Um, but he was raising money, it was charity. So
Hmm.
like people forget that. But if that's his only hiccup, shoot. I mean, then yeah, I mean, that's such a minor thing, you know?
The
It's so
flawless
minor.
career. I'll tell you
Yeah,
what, KD
flawless.
was worse. KD was worse. When he left to go to Golden State, that was worse to me.
I hear you, man, but listen, and Jerry West has said it, the late great Jerry West said it, as far as he gets to play basketball with folks first of all, Golden State, all their guys they drafted, right? Klay
Clay,
Thompson,
Steph, Draymond.
Draymond, Steph, all were drafted. They never really had a free agents that really came through. Yeah, I mean, they had Iguodala, but Iguodala, that was, he's on the second half of his career. You know, but they, Sean Livingston, he had all those major injuries, but they never really had a major like free agent come to the Bay. So like um so they've done everything they could to set themselves up, right? Now, yes, you were just up 3-1 against this team, and then they came back and beat you, and then you go and join them. Sure, I get it. But then if you just put it as far as like basketball sense and being able to play with guys where, they complement your game in such a way where you get to like just play free and shine and like the movement, all that, whatever, that's hard to say no to, you know? So I get why he did it as far as from a basketball like sense. Now, and from a competitive sense, sure. That's like, come on, man, don't go to the team that, you were, 3-1, 3-1, whatever, whatever. But from a basketball standpoint, I wanted to see it, you know, see all those shooters together. You
Oh,
know what
you're in
I
a
want to see those shooters
small
together.
that's a small consensus right there. Because I
I
remember
want to
when
see the shooters together, because I love seeing shooters, and and it's not like they're all like one-on-one guys. They're like moving, and I love seeing the last year the Spurs when the Spurs beat Miami, um, the ball movement that team. Like I remember, I was just like, "Yo, Miami's playing great. They're down 20." Because the Spurs, the ball movement that Spurs team was, I mean, it was incredible basketball to watch. Incredible.
Ginobili, Parker, it was
Yeah.
crazy.
Like it was incredible to watch. So I felt like I was gonna see that with with Golden State in terms of just the ball movement. Because I love seeing ball because I mean I went to a small school where it was all about ball movement, right? I love watching the Princetons back in the day where it was all about the backdoor cut, ball movements. So and not the one-on-one basketball play. I love one-on-one play, but like, at some point, that can get that's not as exciting as watching the ball pop, all five guys touch it, and then, you don't know who's gonna, you don't know who. You don't get a Klay Thompson, scoring 61 off four or three or four dribbles. You know, that's exciting to watch.
It is. It was
Oh, I
exciting.
mean,
I think I really disliked it more because as a Knicks fan, everyone went and bandwagon to the Nets, and I'm glad it was a failed experiment. That's what
yeah.
really irked me. That's
Now I hear that. I hear that. Me personally, I would have loved to have seen him gone to the New York
the
Knicks.
Knicks. Yeah, it would have made
Yeah, I
more
would have loved that.
sense.
I would have loved that. But it's his decision. He wanted to be in Brooklyn. And he was a shoe size too big to from getting to the next round. And they probably if that were a three and not a two, yeah, they probably would have gone on, to play for, if not win the NBA championship, because then all their guys would have been back from injury.
Probably. I'm
Yeah.
glad it
So
didn't happen, but
yeah, you know,
let's hope for your Lakers here. You got to lock in this, keep going with this third seed, and
yeah.
man, what else you got on the way that you could speak about for film work? Anything else that you want to let
No,
everyone know
nothing.
about?
Not at the moment right now. I'm in the lab right now. So, I'm gonna take the fit in the next few months to see, experiment with some things and see what happens in terms of with my writing, with my drawing, and see what I can create. Um, what comes out of just sort of, you know, playing with different paints and see what happens. And then we'll see we'll see what new version of myself comes out of the lab. So we'll see.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be something great. And you have a birthday coming up.
I do. Yes,
Yeah,
I do.
I'm a fellow Taurus as well. So
All right, all right. Are
yeah,
you April or May?
I'm April 20th.
Oh, okay, you coming up. You coming up. All right, all right.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday, man.
Oh, thank you. And you too, because a couple days after the 26th,
Yeah, the
right?
26th. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah,
Fellow
yeah.
Taurus.
So, see, that's why we can talk. That's why we can vibe, man.
Yeah, exactly. And we
Yeah.
got into a big hoops discussion.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Now I can
Uh,
talk hoops all day, all
yeah,
day, all day, all day.
yeah. Well,
Anyway,
man, I want to thank you, Nyambi. I want to thank you for coming on the show. I had a
no,
great
thank you,
time
brother.
speaking with you about your career, everything that you've done, your film work. I commend you for all the success that you've had, and
No, thank
I
you for
look
having me.
forward to this renewal of Night Court. I got my fingers
Yes,
crossed, and
please, man. Send your letters, Peacock, NBC. Please. Yeah.
yeah, thank you to Andrew and Drew for getting this set up as well. And you're
Thank
always
you.
what you always have a spot here if you ever want to come back and talk about something that you got on the way. You always have an open
No, no
studio.
doubt. All right, man. Thank you so much.
All right, no problem. Enjoy the rest of your night.
All right, you too, brother.
Take care, Nyambi.
All right, good luck to the next.
Yes, we'll see.
All right.
All right,
All
take
right,
care.
peace.
Peace.